First of all, I'd like to thank our co-sponsors for the event tonight, Kav LaNoar, the great organization of Kav LaNoar. Kav LaNoar is building an emotionally healthier society in Israel through its services catering to individuals, families, communities, and government organizations. They're constantly working to increase the quality and quantity of emotional health services for the demographics they serve, including the opening of a new clinic happened recently in Beit Shemesh for English speakers where costs will be covered by health insurance here in Israel. That's just one example of the incredible work that they're doing to bring emotional health to communities around the country. To learn more or to get involved with Kav LaNoar, visit their website, kavlanoar.org. I will put it in the chat, or email them at info@kavlanoar.org. Great people at Kav LaNoar. Thank you, Mordechai from Kav LaNoar. Thank you, Rav Eli from Kav LaNoar. I think we're a couple minutes away from getting ready. And also Just One Chesed. We'd like to thank the organization Just One Chesed for sponsoring, for being the main sponsor of the event tonight. Just One Chesed is a nonprofit organization in the United States that provides, that our whole goal is to inspire people to do chesed around the world. Our main thing we have is a platform that connects organizations with volunteers worldwide. Oh, I'm in the sukkah, that's why, in the fan. We try to inspire people worldwide to do chesed. We have a software that connects organizations with volunteers. We found that organizations have a hard time. Volunteers want to do good, but sometimes they don't know where to turn. Organizations don't call them back, or they just want chesed at their fingertips. We launched our software in October 2019, and it's been tremendous. It has done a lot of good, and we're actually doing a tremendous amount of enhancements as we speak, and very exciting things to come, please God, with your help very soon. A lot of good things to come. Just last night, we had an amazing meeting with another organization that remained private, which good things are happening, please God, with Just One Chesed. But we need your support. Help us at justonechesed.org, Just One Chesed with 1s.org/donation. It'd be tremendous if you help us continue. And we are about ready. I'm just going to get word from Ellie. I'm going to put the links for Kav LaNoar they wanted to put, and Just One Chesed in the chat. We recommend everyone to we ideally recommend everyone to make a donation for this event. It's suggested, it's not a mandatory donation, but suggested donation to Just One Chesed, justonechesed.org/donation. Or if you're in Israel and you want to give shekel donation, you could give it to the Kav LaNoar organization in shekels. Thank you so much. Just waiting for response.
Huh? What?
We have 6 people that are unmuted. Does anyone else volunteer to be unmuted for this event? If you could write in the chat, that'd be tremendous. Avi Gans, will you like to be unmuted? We need a couple more. I'm gonna mute Avi Gans. Thank you so much. Ravi. Can I get 1 or 2 more? If 1 or 2 more people.
All right, Ali Lebowitz, you can leave now. We're good. All right. So did you hear the one about the lulav and the esrog?
Avi, anyone else to volunteer to unmute yourself for the event? 1 more person. If 1 more person can unmute yourself. Jerry, you raised your hand. Anyone else? What? Okay, I think we're good. We have 1, 2. Yep. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much again to our partner organization, Kav LaNoar. Here we go. 1 second.
What's that?
Isaac is not letting me do it.
Can you tell him it's not working?
Where
No,
are
no, no.
Yes, come with ID.
he performs all over the world. Did a tour last Pesach in Israel. Now basically just performs in his apartment over Zoom. Please welcome Eli Lebowitz. Asked to unmute and spotlight video. There he is. Thank you so much.
Hey everybody, how you doing? All right, you can't hear me. I can't hear you most of it, so I'm just gonna assume it's going great. 1 second, let me just set up this Instagram live. Checking connection.
Rabbi
Great.
Cohen, can I unmute you as well?
What ID?
No? Okay. Say that.
All right. Thank you, Joe, for the introduction to that I wrote for myself. That was really nice. It is great to be in my apartment to perform for all you trapped Israelis over Zoom. This is really nice. I think asking people, I was hoping Joe would ask people beforehand or people would volunteer, but I guess it's like asking for, Aliyah donations on like Supas Torah. Anyone want to give can anyone please? The show will be much better if it's very, very difficult to do comedy over Zoom, as you can imagine, because there's no real feedback. There's no response. You just see a bunch of blank stares, and the only time you get a response is if somebody emails you that they were upset afterwards. And my rabbi said, "Now you know how I feel." So it is great to do. It is great to do this over Zoom. Zoom is not ideal comedy. It's really not though, because most of the time, I just see people's faces. Either people have their names up and they don't want to show their face, or they don't really know how to work as webcam. So they're just like their nostrils are very, very prominent, and that's always the ideal for comedy. We're living in very strange times. Unfortunately, this year has been a challenge, to say the least.
Voice lagging.
If you are unmuted, if you don't mind just keeping it going, I don't know. Anyways, it's been a very strange time. I honestly, I know that there's a whole thing about wearing masks and everything like that. Even in the States, it's like that. It's kind of strange because in the United States, they really changed the mask guidelines on us. Like, at the beginning, they said, you don't really need to wear a mask. It's not really that important. And then one day they said, oh no, everybody needs to wear a mask all the time. And I don't really get how they can just change the rules on us like that. It's like my really from school growing up was like, don't talk to girls. And then one day they're like, why aren't you married? So, it doesn't really make sense to me. So I've been doing a bunch of these shows for the past, 6 months or 7 months. I've been doing a bunch of these shows over Zoom, and it's really tough because I was doing a show for a bunch of schools and staff at a school. And one of the teachers during the show was actually making PPE masks during the show. And I have to tell you, in my life, I have never felt less essential more than that. If there's a hierarchy of medical staff, emergency workers, then it's comedians talking about davening jokes. I'm definitely on the bottom. But and also, this whole situation has changed just the way we interact with everything. We watch a movie instead, watching a horror movie, and instead of yelling at the screen, don't go in there, now I'm yelling, don't touch the elevator button. And, by the way, if this keeps up, this whole situation keeps up, actually pressing the elevator with your finger is actually going to be considered using a shinoi. So there's a lot of new terms that we've heard. Social distancing is one of the main terms that we've been using the last 6 months. Social distancing is not easy. When I first heard the term social distancing, if you're like me and you went to a non-co-ed school growing up, you're like, I totally know how to do that. I'm great at it. I usually stay 10 feet away from people. Meters, whatever. And it's, the world just feels like it's upside down more than normal. And it's true because my shul emailed me not to come. I was really going to come this time. They're like, no, we're just going to close the shul. Like, it felt like a relative who was just kind of guilting you at a certain point. Like, you know what, we're just going to close the shul. We don't need your pity. We're not going to, we don't need it anymore. And, I was thinking about all these holidays that we've had, at least in the States, we really haven't had things open up regularly, so we had a lot of holidays that we missed. Shavuot we missed. We didn't really have that. I was thinking actually the number 40 is a really important number in Judaism. Moshe was on Har Sinai for 40 days. Sorry, it just felt like a lot for quarantine. It felt like 40 years. The Jews were in the desert for 40 years. A free Zoom session shuts off after 40 minutes. It's a really important number in Judaism. And by the way, something about when it comes to the coronavirus, with the symptoms, I have to say it's a little tricky because the symptoms couldn't be more vague. It's like headaches, sore throat, cough, cold, anxiety, baldness. I'm pretty sure that I've had it for years. I mean, I don't know if anybody's gotten the swab. I got it in both nostrils because the first one wasn't painful enough. I got that. I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure I lost some memory. I think that's how they mummified people back in Egypt. So this, this whole situation has been very tough. I really give credit to teachers who've been doing, a lot of teachers did stuff over Zoom since March, and they did classes over Zoom. That's got to be very challenging, to do what you do in person, but over Zoom, kind of like what I'm trying to do right now. But like teachers, the kids probably try to pull the same things, they're like, I have to go to the bathroom. Like, I see you're playing Xbox right now. I don't think you're actually. But also, I give credit to teachers for really pulling Zoom off so quickly. Like, we know that, I know the teachers growing up not have been able to figure out Zoom because they couldn't even figure out the video cart with the TV on it. It was like, I don't know if some of you are very young for this, but basically you brought a video card. You knew this was going to only be a 45-minute video, but it was going to take them 2 hours just to learn how to use it. Some of you, if you don't know what I mean, you're lucky, consider yourself lucky. I'm just going to fix this Instagram situation here. I don't have TikTok going on, but I just got a lot of things going on here. Anyways, so this whole situation, this whole thing really started around Purim. I know Israel things started a lot earlier, right before Purim. Purim in the States, at least where I'm in New York, we kind of had a semi-normal Purim. It was kind of weird though, because like somebody coughed during the Megillah, everyone booed that guy. And then, what I love about Purim though, we didn't really get to appreciate the things I love about Purim. What I love about Purim a lot is Shalach Manot, Mishlach Manot. I love getting Mishlach Manot. I mean, this year we didn't really do that. We kind of just did, give me toilet paper and Purell. That's all I need. Canned goods, simply. But what I love so much about Purim is more than getting Shalach Manot, I like re-gifting Shalach Manot. Let's be honest, we all do it. There's nothing worse than, you can only make so many, right? You make your 25, your 30, then some people go really crazy and make like 100. And you always get those surprise people that knock on your door. They're like, hey, happy Purim. You're like, oh shoot, I know we're that good of friends. Hold on. And you do this like panic shuffle behind the door, and we all have that table, right? Because now if we're working from home, we only have one table, a table for everything. You're eating here, your kids are doing homework here, you're trying to work here, your kids are also playing there. It's one table. So on Purim, we have the same table, right? We have the table of our Shalach Manot that are made, and then we get the stuff that we like in one corner, and then the stuff we hate, the black jelly beans, the yellow Laffy Taffies, the fruit. You're like, this is purposely just to be re-gifted to people, okay? And you try to, somebody knocks on your door surprisingly, and you're like, oh, dude, hold on, I didn't know we were that good of friends. And so then you finally do this quickly, and you're like, by the way, one year I'm gonna write my name in a box of raisins and see if it ever comes back to me. And you try to quickly organize, something. You can't really make it your theme because being unprepared isn't a theme. And you quickly get this together, and you open, you finally give it to them. You're all sweaty, and you're like, "Hey, happy Purim!" And they're like, "Wait, I just gave you these raisins." And that's why on my Mishlach Manot, I write, "Wishing a happy Purim to you and your family, or whoever you decide to give this to." And I'm just gonna try to look at. Well, I got to see a lot more faces here. People, it's great because you get to see people not smiling on Zoom. You get to see people just going, like, people have nowhere to go, literally, and they're just like, and the event is literally free, and they're literally like, I can catch up on Fauda. I don't need to watch this. It's by the way, just as an aside, Just One Chesed is primary sponsor here, and Kova Noar, they're doing really great things. Kova Noar, if you can, this is a free show. Definitely try to give something. I know it's a tough situation right now, but if you can give, that's the end of my spiel. Anyways, but so just this whole experience has been challenging. challenging. And doing comedy, especially, you know, I'm hesitant when, you know, Joe read my bio, and it's really tough because now that all events are canceled, it really just feels like a sad thing where it's like he performs Pesach programs, events all over the world, and things that also aren't happening right now. So now he's been reduced to a broom closet in his apartment. So this is, but like I'm very encouraged that you had to decide to have a comedy night. It really makes me happy because there are times when I'll contact organizations and see if they will do comedy nights. I'll ask if they want to have a comedy night, and they'll tell me horror stories of previous comedy nights that didn't go well. They'll be like, well, we had a comedian in 1985. And he swore the entire time, and it was the worst Tisha B'Av event we ever had. And you know, that's and that was a bad time to do that shul. But you know, it's also when you tell people you're a comedian or they're going to watch a comedy show, you know, there's this pressure to be funny right away. People are just like, oh, you're a comedian? Prove it. That doesn't happen with other jobs. Nobody's ever like, oh, you're a Moel? Prove it. Okay, you're like, all right, stand back. And you know, it's and sometimes, you know, Joe gave me that intro. A lot of times when I do perform at, you know, Jewish events, you always have to follow like the rabbi, or you have to follow Tehillim, and that's really tough. You know, you like, you know, one time I performed at an event a few years ago, and the rabbi literally finished his speech by saying, "I am so scared for the state of the world. I am so terrified for the Jewish people. I know Mashiach's coming, but I'm frightened. Please welcome the comedian Eli Lebowicz." And you guys are like, hey, who's terrified? So that's you got to deal with that. As a comedian in general, it's tough because when I would go to communities, I'd go perform for a Motzi Shabbat event, and I'd be there for the whole Shabbos, and I would go to a meal Friday night, but people wouldn't know I'm the comedian at the meal. So I'd hear their honest feedback about the event Saturday night. They'd be like, hey, are you going to this stupid comedy thing tomorrow night? And I'd be like, I don't know. He barely won the YU last comic standing. You know, so, you know, there's that. Again, there's no way to know how this is going. I can tell by people's faces, but they're probably just watching photo or something else anyway. So they shouldn't be smiling at that anyway. But also, some of you seem like good laughers. I can't really tell if you're laughing, but some people are good laughers, and some people are just really tough to make laugh. Some people don't really laugh. They kind of just smile and nod. I'll do a show, and then afterwards people come up and be like, you know, you were really funny. I'll be like, really? Because you weren't laughing. And they'll be like, well, I was thinking it. So thank you. Some of you thinking it. Also, Jews, impossible to make happy. And in general, Jews like something more than laughing, and that's correcting people. And a lot of you didn't laugh at that because you're thinking, I don't know if he's right about that. So thank you very much for proving my point. Even if I couldn't hear you. And I do very clean material. You know, I know that a lot of kids, I do a lot of very clean material because even if I did a dirty joke, it really wouldn't be believable. I know that when I go to a comedy club in the States, you know, comedians are usually much more inappropriate. They'll get up on stage and be like, you know how when you're in a club in Vegas doing drugs, they'll be like, no. Or not even dirty stuff I can't connect with as an Orthodox Jew. They'll be like, you know how you're at a McDonald's? I'm like, let me stop you right there. I need a comedian to say something I can relate to. I need a comedian to get up on stage and be like, you know how when you're peeing and you sneeze and your yarmulke falls in the toilet? Be like, yes, I totally, oh my gosh, happens more than you think. That joke is missing the live experience, because if this was a real room of people together, all the women would be cracking up and turning to the men and being like, does that happen to you? All the men would be lying and say, no, it does not. But that's why some people wear black hats. Anyways, that, by the way, also when you do show over Zoom, it's very tricky because you see when people leave the Zoom, and it's hard to see this person left without like assuming they were offended. So I'm just going to assume everyone was offended. But you know, so I'm in New York, and it's a pretty accepting, you know, city for Jews for the most part, you know, but still you get weird comments. I'll be walking in the street and somebody said to me, you know, keep it moving, yarmulke, which I guess is the most neutral anti-Semitic comment. What do? You too, crucifix? I don't really have a response to that.
Good.
Another guy asked me once when the bus was coming, and I was like, I don't know. He's like, I get it. You're Jewish, so you think you're better than me? And I was like, yeah, but not for that reason. And so actually several months ago, I was driving with a friend of mine before this whole thing started, and he was, he was giving me a ride somewhere, and he got into a lane, and as he got into the lane, he cut off about 20 cars, and he told me, he said, "Take your yarmulke off for this." And I told him, "You're driving a Honda Odyssey, okay? There might as well be a mezuzah on the door. This is practically the mitzvah over here, okay?" I don't know if you guys, I don't know what the go-to staple car in Israel is, but a Mazda, whatever. I guess everybody in Israel is Jewish pretty much. So, any car in Israel. But there are times, again, I'm very proud of my Judaism, but there are times you want to downplay your Judaism. Like when you fly, remember flying, everybody? I would fly on Sukkot with my lulav and etrog, which is really humbling experience because you're already like embarrassed about having to daven in front of everybody. Again, this is not a relatable premise to Israel because everybody's like, "What do you mean? We daven all the time everywhere." But in America, there is a thing called davening in public, which you try to downplay, try to do it in some corner somewhere. So now you have to walk through holding your lulav and etrog, walking through, and also you can't put your bags down anywhere, like unattended. So you have to go to the bathroom with your lulav and etrog, which just seems wrong. This guy at the, is all of a sudden looking at me like, "What's going on?" Like, "You've never seen a guy go to the bathroom with a tree before? What's your problem?" So, you have to walk through American Airlines holding this giant lulav and etrog, and the woman, obviously, she says to me, "What is that?" And I'm like, "It's like a religious tree. I don't know." And she says, "You plant it?" And I'm like, "No, you idiot. You shake it." Duh. And by the way, non-Jews, Catholics have something called Ash Wednesday, where 40 days before Easter, they put ashes on their forehead. Only the frum ones. They put ashes on their foreheads. And every time I see somebody with ashes on their foreheads, I can't help but think to myself, I got to start cleaning for Pesach. Wow, that is... and not to trigger some of you, but Pesach is in 6 months, which is astounding because it was also last week. So I have no idea. So some of the stuff, being Jewish, being proud of my Judaism is really important. But like, in the States, you have more problems than you do in Israel. And everyone in the chat's gonna be like, "Yeah, so just make Aliyah, okay?" But like seriously, you have these issues with like work, let's say, where let's say right now, a perfect example. I mean, it's on a weekend this year, so it's not so bad. But if you take off work for Tishrei, it's impossible. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, people have heard of those. Those are name brand holidays. But you want to take off for Sukkot or Shmini Atzeret, Simchas Torah, just like, so I'm going to need 2 days off next week. That's fine. You'll just make up the time the week after. I'm going to need another 2 days next week also. What's that holiday called? Happiness of the Torah. Don't worry, there's no holidays for like 6 months, but I will need to leave by 2 on Fridays. And
What?
so it's just so hard. By the way, I mentioned the Pesach thing. Now we have a new year, 5781. It's a time to really kind of re-energize all the customs that we kind of have taken with us, to try to carry that over through the year. I know that some people actually even have had the custom they've been drinking 4 cups of wine every day since Pesach. That's fine. L'chaim for those of you. I hope people, I hope the adults are drinking something. It's Israel, so maybe, I don't know, the kids are drinking too, but, I hope people are drinking something because, Chabad's slogan is, "It's Purim somewhere." So, and that's when like 6 people sign off now. I have to say, another challenge that you get in the States with holidays is when after Yom Kippur, you go back to work, people that aren't Jewish, they come up to you or they email you and they say, "I hope you had a nice holiday." Do you know what I was doing yesterday? I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm a bad person. All together now. I know it was a shortened davening, but you guys know what I'm talking about. I missed that this year. Or you're so focused on how slow the chazan is going that every song is about the pace of the chazan, and it just seeps into your brain. Instead of the words to the song, you're just like Mari Cohen is no longer Mari Cohen. It's, I wish he'd hurry up so we could get a break. The book I brought to shul isn't so great. What page are we on? How much more is there to go? I can't believe he's going so slow. Sorry. Yeah, or you're like me. I really do try to have an inspirational Yom Kippur davening, but it's not easy because I'm like you. You know, I'm counting the pages, dividing by 2. Thank God. Oh my God. If you are still using the beard bomb mobster, don't go outside. No, but like honestly, but like I use the art scroll. It's not, I know you guys use the Karin probably, but still you have you still have the dividing by 2, which is great because it might taste amazing to break your fast after Yom Kippur, but there's nothing like realizing 150-page Musaf is only really 75 pages. And it's really unbelievable. Come on, but you're like me, right? You really try to have this kavanah, but you get mad at the chazan when you something that's like not bolded. You're like, dude, what are you doing? We could have been 8 pages further by now. And it says like some shuls say these paragraphs. You're like, please don't some shuls, please. And it's an election year in the States, so if I was ever running for office, my campaign slogan would be "Most congregations omit this." And but like I really do try to have an inspirational davening on Yom Kippur, but it's really tough because you have the Shamnus, the alphabetical list of things that we've done wrong. That's how Jews do things alphabetically. So the one that scares me the most as a comedian is the one called Latznu, because that means we made a mockery of serious things. Guys, that's why I was invited tonight. Everyone else on Yom Kippur is like Shamnu, but I'm the only one who's just like Latznu. This is gonna be a while. Latznu. And I was reading the back of the art scroll Machzer, the whole paragraphs for each one, because I wanted to feel extra guilty. And the one for Latznu literally says, you have made a mockery of serious things. You have found a springboard of humor for every topic. People have taken things less seriously because of you. I was reading this thinking to myself, this would make a pretty decent eulogy, okay? Like, honestly, and L'chaim. Also, so the Yom Kippur felt different this year. Rosh Hashanah is 2 days, even in Israel. So in your face, I know you guys are like, we have 1 day of everything. But like, you're also trapped inside. Anyways, but like Rosh Hashanah is 2 days, but you're only judged on one of them because God does it A through L, M through Z, but you don't know which day. Sorry, Aleph through Lamed, Mem through Tuf. I have to translate my material. So it's just, so this whole situation, I've been going to shul minimally. It's been a little bit open slowly but surely. Now, in addition to raising a shul building fund, my shul has a tent fund now that I have to contribute money to. Like, it's not easy. I imagine that's what the Mishkan was called. Everybody, we have a tent fund that we need. Just half a shekel. That's all we need, please. And it's so crazy. Like I went to davening on Yom Kippur on Rosh Hashanah, and I said, "Wow, it's crazy. This is like the first minyan I've been to since Hanukkah." People are like, "Wasn't it Purim that everything shut down? First minyan since Hanukkah. It's so crazy." And anyways, so Joe mentioned I did some shows in Israel last year over Pesach. That was felt like 10 years ago. I did some shows over in Israel. I didn't fly El Al that time because, I'd flown El Al before. I forgot. Some of you were like, whoa, we love El Al. And 8 people just signed off because they're friends with the new guy who just bought it. Anyways, but I've flown El Al. I forgot what flying El Al was like. There were babies crying, people davening, people smoking. It was like somebody took the subway in New York and was like, let's make this a 12-hour experience. Like, a mariachi band start playing halfway through the flight. And when I was checking my bags, I saw the sign for El Al. It said, El Al, the tagline said, El Al, it's not an airline, it's Israel. I feel like a more accurate slogan should be, El Al, it's not an airline, it's an Egged bus with wings. The kosher restaurant just with bigger bathrooms. By the way, one time I asked the crowd, I say, anybody fly El Al recently? And one woman yells out, never again. I couldn't help myself. I said, I don't think that's good. Anyways, sorry. Last week. So honestly, like, but the LL security, guys, they have LL security has great security, which is designed to make you feel like this is going to be a really safe flight. But all it does is make you feel like a bad Jew. They ask you these questions. Do you know what Parsha it is? You're like, that's not a fair question to ask. I don't even know what book we're on. I think Simchas Torah is coming up somehow. And it's like, I know this is going to be on the final. Or they ask you, where do you go to shul? And you're like, listen, my shul told me not to come, okay? You're not going to tell my parents about this, are you? Or they ask you this other one, they say, who are you visiting in Israel? Where are you visiting? You're like, listen, this is supposed to be a quick trip. I do not have time to, I didn't tell my relatives I was coming. I do not have time to bring Listerine and cereal to my cousins in Beit Shemesh, okay? Can we just keep this between us? Or they ask you the stupidest one, did anyone ask you to bring anything? No. Only every person I've ever met in my entire life. A bigger red flag would be who didn't ask you to bring something, okay? That person's really more suspicious to go to Israel. And that's why I was so proud of the Bereshit moon lander last year. I know it was an unmanned mission to the moon, but I can't wait for the first manned mission to the moon of Israelis, where there'll be a big press conference. They're going to say, we're so proud of being the first Israelis to go to the moon. And one person's going to raise their hand and say, do you mind bringing a few things back from the moon with you? My son's learning in yeshiva there, and so
Very true.
but so we've had an interesting time with Israel. I have to say, but so the LL the security guys, they have this nice disarming Hebrew, and it's way better than the Hebrew teachers I had growing up, whose qualifications for Hebrew weren't that thorough. They didn't really see, can you teach Hebrew? They were just like, are you Israeli? Yes. Are you out of your mind? Of course. Great, you're teaching fifth graders. Can you throw a desk at a kid? You'll get a bonus at the end of the year. And now schools wonder, why don't our kids know Hebrew? And they're like, I don't know, because you had a drill sergeant throwing a desk at me half the time and yelling at me in a language I didn't understand. And they didn't really teach me, real Hebrew. They teach in elementary school, I had Hebrew for like half an hour for like twice a week, and all they taught us were school supplies. Iparon, pencil, 8, pen, shachan, matchmaker. You guys know what I'm talking about. And it didn't prepare me to learn Hebrew unless I wanted to work in Office Depot in Tel Aviv. That's all I'm saying. And then I got to high school, and they teach us the binyanim, which isn't the buildings. And it's not really you guys are like, that's not funny. But it didn't really prepare me. It didn't prepare me well, because again, binyanim, are they going to help you? The grammar, like, are you ever going to be an emergency in Israel and you're like, I need help? Did you say that in Hitpael? Like, that's not going to happen. I hope not. Some of you that took Old Honor, like, that totally happened. Anyways, but I have to say, so my year in Israel, after high school, I read Harry Potter 1 in Hebrew, which is not that impressive, because it took me half an hour to realize Dumbledore's not in the dictionary. And honestly, it's I will get that later. I went to a really from yeshiva, and people were like, why are you reading that? I said, I want to learn Hebrew. I'm in their country. They said, why don't you read a Sefer or something? They said, first of all, Sefer is book in Hebrew. You would know that if you knew Hebrew. And also, number 2, they haven't made Meselat Yesharim into a movie yet. So that was for 6 of you, including my father. So, anyways. But it's really challenging, learning Hebrew. I really think when it comes, I think if Israel also has an advantage of some things sound nicer in Hebrew and they do better, like Shoko Bisakit, for example, is a perfect example of a product that does just as well, does really well because Hebrew's a nice language. Because if you sold that product in America and you said, hey, we got this great thing, what is it? Chocolate milk in a bag. Technically, it's a sack, and you get blue stuff on your hands whenever you drink it, but it's amazing. We trust me. I have to say with Israel that Israel, first of all, Israel, I have to say Israel is really proud of being the only democracy in the Middle East. It's really true. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. It's so proud of being the only democracy in the Middle East. You even had an election 3 times in 1 year, and that's really impressive. Too bad, too real. Anyways, but but I have to say about Israel, in America and all over the country, all over the world, you really have to, defend Israel, and because there's a lot of criticism of Israel that's not warranted and that's not accurate. Like it's okay to criticize things about Israel. That's okay. Just make sure that the criticism is accurate and honest. Like, don't criticize Israel for being an apartheid state, because it's not. Criticize Israel for being this close to curing cancer, but can't figure out how to serve pizza on anything more than a cardboard slab. Like, don't criticize Israel for, doing ethnic cleansing. Doesn't do that. Criticize Israel for being the startup nation, but still hasn't made it past the squeegee when it comes to cleaning stuff. Like, that was my most offensive. No, don't criticize Israel for going against the UN. Criticize Israel for going against health standards, but I think it's okay to have a cat working at a shawarma stand. Okay, that's all I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So last year, me and my wife, last Pesach, me and my wife and our son, who was like about 1.5 years old at the time, flew to Israel for shows. A lot of people have the custom to kiss the ground when they go to Israel for the first time. My son licked the ground, and it's pretty gross. No one's ever done that before. Actually, before that, about 6 months before that, I flew without my wife, just me and my son, and he was about 1 year old at the time, and it was such a different experience of seeing being a man flying with a baby as opposed to a woman flying with a baby. A woman flying with a baby, people are just like, can you just be quiet, all right? But a man flying with a baby, people are like, oh my God, sir, you're a hero. God bless you. Thank you for your service. They made an announcement. They said beforehand, we want to have pre-boarding for elderly veterans and men who are clearly inept without their wives. And it's really tricky. Just one thing, by the way, about this whole experience, about this whole COVID situation, I think something that really has to do is kind of unify us, because we're all in the same boat relatively. Like, I think it's a big challenge that we've been dealt, and I think whatever your religious beliefs are, just do what you do and try to keep to yourself and do your thing, because don't tell other people that they're wrong. Because what if God has the opposite hashkafa as you? Like, what if, a Satmar Chassid goes up to Shemayim after 120 years and he meets God and he says, wow, it's so amazing to meet you. And God says, before we start, I'd like to say a prayer for the Medina. And he's like, oh my gosh. Oh, I knew, but on the wrong words. Okay, too real. Anyway, so it's interesting. My wife actually. So this quarantine's been interesting because my wife actually had a baby girl about 2 months ago. You can write Mazel Tov later in the chat. Thank you. Thank you. My daughter was actually born 8 days late because she knew it was 2020, and she's like, "What's the hurry to come out?" He was born on Tu B'Av. She's like, "Why is everyone acting like it's still Tisha B'Av? I don't understand." And my son, who's almost 3 now, he was born 4 days late because my wife's family is part Chabad, and you'll get that later also. Again, people are like, why are you ripping out Chabad? I was like, they can handle late jokes, okay? If there's one thing they can handle, it's late jokes. So it's a crazy experience, being the husband of a woman, with, who's in labor or having a baby. My wife's also into in the medical field. So she's talking to her, her doctor the whole time about neonuclear tests and stuff like that. And I'm just like a caveman who just will the baby look like me? And, I don't know if anyone's like that. But thank God, my, both kids were, born healthy. Everything was okay. And, we brought my son home. We brought them home from the hospital for about 2 days, and we checked my mailbox, and there's already a bill for yeshiva tuition. It was incredible. Did that. And again, this is where a bunch of you make aliyah. Don't have to worry about it as much. But it's so crazy. And actually, at one point, when my son was born, one of my wife's siblings texted me and said, I'm really nervous. I'm in the delivery room, and she texted me. She said, one of her siblings said, it's a really auspicious time to have a baby. It's the yortzeit of Rachel Imenu. And I almost wrote back, you know, Rachel died during childbirth. Maybe not the best time for a Devar Torah. Okay? Risk enough as it is. And when you have a new child, you want to know what you're going to name name it. You have to talk about what names to go with. The whole time you and your spouse kind of have different names. You have your list, and your wife has her list, and they veto names based on some weird association that they had in school. They're like, we're not naming him Yitzhak, okay? I went to school with Yitzhak. He used to eat glue. We're not naming him Yitzhak. And like, I told that joke at Pesach, and a bunch of people did not laugh. And they all went to eat glue afterwards, and they're all and also, all you care about as a new parent is getting sleep. That's really all you can care about. And that's why I'm doing this at 1:30 p.m. my time, because it's the only available time I have right now. And like, all of a sudden, you just hope you put your kid in the crib, hope they stay asleep. You crawl back into your bed, you pick up your pillow, you hold it in your arms, and you whisper to it softly. I didn't know it was possible to love anything this much. And some of you still have kids up, and you're like, what do you mean? My kids aren't asleep yet. And it's such a crazy experience. Honestly, actually, my son was born with a lot of hair. I was pretty jealous. And then he started losing his hair, and then he had his bris. And then my mother-in-law started talking about how he was getting a double chin. And I said to my son, you're balding, you're circumcised, and relatives are talking about your weight. Welcome to the Jewish people. You're a member of the tribe. And thankfully, it's been a good few months for me, even despite this whole situation. But I know how challenging every facet of Jewish life has been hard. We had the 9 days during the summer, and that's so hard. The 9 days, obviously, is everybody, you're supposed to not eat meat during the 9 days unless somebody makes a siyum or it's Shabbos. So obviously everyone makes a siyum every night of the 9 days, because some people hate dairy so much they're even willing to learn Torah. And but also the 9 days, I feel like it wasn't fair to have a 9 days this year. We didn't need a 9 days. We've had 2020. It's like a whole year of the 9 days. It's like, we don't need, it's overkill to have extra sadness. Like, it's kind of like how Erev Pesach, I have to search my house for 10 pieces of bread, even though I know that there's 100 Cheerios in my couch right now. Okay, we don't need it.
Very good.
Yeah, so a lot of my people in my age are talking about getting married and dating, and there's this obsession in Judaism about getting people married. That's just the thing. When you turn 18 and you're a guy, people just go up to you in the more yeshiva circles. They say this phrase, "Are you in the parsha?" And I didn't even know, which means, are you dating? But I didn't even know what that meant. So I was like, I don't know. Do you work for El Al? Like, what? I'm married now, so I guess I'm in the Haftorah. I don't really know how this goes. But what happens is a lot of guys, I'm not to stereotype, but a lot of guys are very scared of commitment when it comes to dating, settling down. What I think, I'll perform on some Shabbatons for people that are single, and I'll ask if they want to, some guys want to go on these Shabbatons, and they'll be like, I don't know if I can commit to a whole Shabbos. And I said, marriage is like a bunch of Shabboses, right? It's like mostly Shabbos, especially quarantine. But it's really tough. What I realize is what these guys, what they're scared of, this fear of commitment, is the same fear of commitment that they have when it comes to eating fleischings. Because guys love meat, but they're scared that if they eat a steak, maybe a pizza is going to drop out of the sky. You don't know. That's why FOMO is this term called fear of missing out, but it also stands for fear of milchig opportunities. And this is when laughter would be great. But anyways, it's some people are still like, this is sheer. This is the weirdest sheer I've ever heard. So what and also the way men and women interact in the Orthodox community is so awkward. We don't have like events, or sometimes, like, I went to YU. I don't know if anybody went to YU or know people that went to YU, but YU has something called a Sfarim sale. For 3 weeks they sell books, and they pretend to sell books, but it's just a really weird backwards way for people to meet each other. So you have people just going like, hey, that Gemara looks cute, and it's like, Rihanna had a song several years ago called "We Found Love in a Hopeless Place" that was written about the YU Sfarim himself. And come on, but is there anything more awkward than a Jewish proposal? Like a regular proposal is like, will you marry me? Yes. Great, let's make out or whatever. And like a Jewish proposal is like, will you marry me? Yes. Awesome. Give me some phone calls. I'll see you in 2 to 3 months, depending on how prim we are. Also, this was a total surprise, even though I picked out the ring and we already booked the hall. By the way, so weddings, I don't know, weddings, I didn't realize how much I would miss, going to these big weddings. And, like, because I don't know how it is in Israel, but in the States, every wedding is pretty formulaic. Everything is pretty similar right now. Every wedding is pretty similar. You have the same announcements at the, you have the MC goes, everyone please, I don't know, in Israel, everyone's just jumping around, whatever. But like in the States, it's like, everyone please silence your cell phones. The Chassan and Kala like to thank everyone for joining in their simcha. They need one more announcement. The Wi-Fi password is Emir Hashem by you.
That's good. I like that.
That's funny. I like the first 4 words. Anyways, but also it's great of the 5 people that are unmuted. But it's so at the chuppah you have also you have the MC has the sometimes he'll tell you who's getting like the Sheva Brachos and he'll say, and now for the 4th Sheva Bracha, this person, close friend of the Kala's family, unlike the rest of you 400 people sitting in it. But also, you have, sometimes you have the rabbi will ask the guy, he'll say, did you buy the ring with your own money? And if the guy's in like Kollel or Yeshiva, you'd see his father be like, no, rabbi, he did not buy it. Are you paying for the apartment also? Good. It's really unbelievable, but it's really great. So also, you sometimes you have also in it's crazy because in Israel or in America they have they read the ketubah, whatever, and I don't really understand any of the words. Aaron, I've heard 15 years of Gemara, and I still don't understand anything beyond Teaneck, New Jersey. Like, oh, that one I understood. Like, that's it. And it's unbelievable. So after the chuppah, first of all, before the chuppah, you have the mothers break the plates, which is to teach you a lesson that your mother and your mother-in-law do things you don't understand. Just stay out of their way because they have a hammer. But after after the chuppah, you have the dancing, if you can call it dancing. It's really just clockwise. That things get really crazy counterclockwise, and again, you have the wedding shtick, and I don't really know how to describe this to, the bag check people. You go up to the people and say, by the way, see that bag full of like clown shoes, bowling pins, and flaming swords? I'm gonna need that back in 2 hours. It's part of my dance routine. And, and some weddings, they have these huge mechitzas. I don't know if you've seen some of these mechitzas, but you have men on one side and women on the other, and a huge brick wall. I don't know if you've seen some of these mechitzas, but Berlin had something smaller. And it's really, it's really unbelievable that, some weddings, they tell you when it's black tie, so it's more formal. They should also tell you when it's separate seating, so you know not to go. Anyways, no, that one I shouldn't have done. I told Joe I shouldn't have done that joke. But at so the dancing, the dancing, you have the 3 circles of dancing, right? You have the inner circle who are like the close friends and the relatives. You have the inner outer circle who are like the guys who are so drunk that they think they're close friends and relatives. Then you have the outer circle, like the dads and the plus ones who are like, how did I end up at this wedding anyway? Hoshana, we are number 4, Hoshana, and that would work better in a real room. So you have the same shtick. Wedding shtick is the same at every wedding. I don't care if it's Israel or America or anywhere. It's the same thing. You have the same. Here's what you have. First, you have the 4 best friends of the guy who are just. Somebody's getting motion sickness. Sorry. Somebody's like, I'm getting motion sickness. I was like, great. Now I have to worry about other diseases that people are getting other than COVID. I'm trying to torture them for that. So you have the same people, right? You have the four friends who are like, who are just hogging the dance floor, unlimited basketball jerseys, just elbows out the entire time. You have these poor girls on the side, like 4 girls. They're trying to get into the circle. They're just waiting for a lull. And then finally a lull happens. They're like, all right, go, go, go. They just like have like a poster and a sweatshirt. Like, hey, remember the cat? And then they're out. And that's it. Then you have the rabbi whose only move is having smicha. He's like, hey, I'm a rabbi. And then he's out. And then you have the guy who's obsessed with fire. You're like, this guy's gonna light up the whole place. Then you have the guy who takes nothing in life seriously except for wedding shtick. You're like, you three, we're gonna do the helicopter. We're gonna kick 4 kids in the face. It's gonna be amazing. And then sometimes no one gets in the circle. No one gets in the circle, and they're just here. Everyone's just waiting for someone to get in. And the music they're playing is called Ketzad Maraktim, which literally translates to "How do you dance?" Is there anything more fitting than a bunch of people going, "How do you dance? How do you dance? Do you know how to dance at a wedding?" And everyone's like, "I don't know." And then one guy does this weird bullfighter thing. Like, that's the best you can come up with. You're like, "Listen, man, I'm just one. I don't even know why I'm here." And then after all that, you have the out of shape uncle who does one push-up and everyone gives him a huge amount of applause. Also, I forgot, also you have the kids who are forced to go in the circle, the like nephews and nieces who are just like in some weird, costume or whatever. And they're just like staring blankly. They might be holding up a sign that says, "I was promised dessert for this." And, or sometimes if the couple doesn't have like such close friends that dress up, you have just generic costumes. Like a guy will just dress up in a cow costume. You're like, and then the people are like, what's this guy into? I have no idea. And so, after I say that because I've been married, I've been married about 7 years, and it felt like 7 years over quarantine. No, I'm kidding. 7 years I've been married, and it's been, what's challenging about marriage is that people throw their cynicism into marriage very early on. People just go up to you and they're just like, there's 3 rings: the wedding ring, the engagement ring, and the suffering. Like, telling me this at my chuppah, you're getting the 4 Sheva bracha. And or they people give you advice. People love giving you marriage advice. They give you the normal advice, like never go to bed angry. Communication is the most important thing. Then you get the weird cryptic advice you have no idea what to do with. People just go up to you and they're like, "Psst, never get in a fight on a boat."
What?
Always order the chicken. You're like, what happened on the boat? Chicken, I need to know. Okay. And but then you get, what's really dumb is people ask you, how is married life? Very early on. What are you supposed to say to that? How is married life? Weird having a female roommate. Lots of trips to Bed Bath & Beyond. I didn't know I'd be doing this much toveling. Toveling, for those of you that don't remember, is when you take your brand new dishes, dunk it in a tub of dirty water, and it makes it spiritually cleaner. Okay? So, but basically, so they should ask you, how is married life, when you could actually answer the question. Like, 3 years into getting married. 3 years into getting married. How is married life? Well, I haven't been on time to any social function in 3 years. Also, I'm pretty sure my wife Shaitelhead is going to murder me in my sleep. Okay? Now, I know everyone in Israel has tichels, but still, pachad, whatever. But basically, I don't know if you know the horror I'm experiencing, where my wife is just sleeping softly. I'm staring at these 2 heads of busted head, just on my dresser, staring at me creepily in the night. They have needles in their neck like the Frankenstein monster. And I'm just to my wife, you know what, I'm going to sleep in the sukkah tonight. We don't even have a sukkah, okay? And, that's how that started. My wife has a shaitel. For those of you that don't know, shaitel is Yiddish for expensive wig that doesn't do anything. And these things lose hair. I don't know if you realize these things. I had no idea these things lose hair. I'll see some of the hair on the floor and say to my wife, "I'm not sure this investment's paying off." And every time my wife sees my hair on the floor, she says, "I'm not sure this investment's paying off." And by the way, when a girl, in the States, they have some customs that you don't know how long you're going to be waiting for your wife to get ready. I don't want to stereotype. I'm getting a lot of people in trouble over Yontiv, but basically, you're going to be waiting we have nowhere to go, and you're still waiting for your wife to get ready. And we have no idea how long you're going to be waiting, but that's why some people have a custom that when a girl gets engaged, her parents buy the guy a watch. And they say, "Listen, it's going to be a watch. You don't know how long it is." Or they buy him a set of shots and they say, "Listen, you might as well accomplish something while you're waiting, okay?" You hear about those stories of rabbis who finish shots at red lights. You don't know about the stories of the husbands who finish shots waiting for their wives to get ready. They're doing siyums in the doghouse, and it's really great. I have to say, Friday afternoon is really the most stressful thing when you're married. It's very, very stressful because when you're single, Shabbos just happens. That's when people are getting upset at me. They're like, listen, Shabbos does not just happen, okay, buddy? No, Friday afternoon when you're married, it becomes a little bit of a war zone, okay? You know, you're like, you get in arguments that you know were possible. It's like, I can't believe you put the bags there and not there. And I'm like, if this was a Tuesday, we would not be yelling about this. But that's why guys buy flowers on Friday afternoon. This is their insurance policy. They know these plants are going to die in 5 days. You're going to make sure you don't die today. Okay. We all know that Easter is a Christian holiday because no Jewish couples ever had a good Friday. Okay. Very real in Israel. I know. Very real. Did any accident davening is longer on Friday nights? If it was just mincha and mara, that would be too quick. Okay, they're like, let's throw a Kabbalah shops. Do you know how many marriages the long Karlbach davening has saved? You know, so people sing to their wives, Aisha style. Some of you still do it. And I think they need a more updated, modern version of Aisha style, which should go something like this. I'm really sorry I didn't help out more. I didn't mean to go on Facebook. Can you please forgive me? I'm still not sure what I did wrong. I really want to get over this. I don't think you're actually fine. Can you please forgive me? Or this is going to be an awkward meal. And I can tell a lot of you are like very scared of laughing. But it's really incredible. But the secret, I have to say, the secret of marriage is if your wife asks you to get up and kill a bug, you get up, and a few minutes later, you flush the toilet, assuming you got it, even if it crawled away on you. Okay, just to give her peace of mind. And sorry I ruined some of your you guys have been so much fun. Please, if you can, give something to Just One Chesed, Kabbalah Noar. Please, my name is Eli Lebowicz. Thank you so much for, if you enjoyed, great. If you didn't enjoy, whatever. Thank you. Happy lockdown. I hope we get through this together. And Chag Sameach.
Thank you so much, Ellie. That was unbelievable. Wow, Yasher Koyach. Thank you so much. Again, thank you for participation. Kabbalah Noar for joining us, co-sponsoring this event. Just One Chesed and Kabbalah Noar. If you're able to give a donation of either $18 to Just One Chesed or 60 shekels to Kabbalah Noar, I put the link in the chat. That'd be tremendous. Again, we do tremendous work. Just One Chesed does tremendous work in the world. Kabbalah Noar does unbelievable work as well. I wrote a whole thing about their stats, and 85%, 100% of parents reported that our individual mentoring program was helpful for their child overall, including improved behavior at home and with their peers. Unbelievable work at these two organizations. Thank you so much, Eli Lebowitz. That was phenomenal. We really appreciate it. Please make donations to these two organizations. Help us continue during these crazy times. We really appreciate it. JustOneChesed.org/donation or KabbalahNoar.org, and the donation is there for shekels. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And if you have any questions, please send it in the chat. But thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate it. Donations, JustOneChesed.org or Kabbalah Noar. We really appreciate it. Everyone should have a Chag Sameach, Moadim L'Simcha, and Besorot Tovot, and health to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.